Howdy everyone, Matt here. I got a question for you. What do you think is the actual reason people leave the APTA and not rejoin? And what do you think would bring them back? And I know we have that gut reaction of an answer. Do you think that is actually it? Let's talk about that. But first and foremost, let me introduce myself. My name is Matt the PT, coming at you with another video on another topic of something in the physical therapy world. And this one is why people leave the APTA. So PTs and PTAs leaving, and what would possibly bring them back? Now, I thought I would present a little project that I did several years ago, about 2 years ago. And this was part of a program I was in here locally, and we had to do a project. And I was thinking, I said, through my years, I had heard so many reasons why people leave the APTA. What would bring them back? It was all speculation, really. It was just all speculation. And then stuff that you do see on social media, it's usually just very negative. It's just a handful of very negative people. And I will tell you, when I see stuff on social media, it's like the same people posting the same comment. And it seems like people look at that and go, oh, that applies across the board. And I said, is that really it? Is it that the actual answer? Or are those just the most vocal, visible people? And so that's what everyone thinks, because again, that's what they see. But there's a larger number of people that there's another reason why that they either left, or that they don't renew, or they said what would bring them back. And they just don't talk about it. So I said, let me do this project. And I'm going to share it with you. I did publish it. I did do a poster presentation at our state conference 2 years ago. So I have that. So I did a survey, and it was 10 questions, and it was open to PTs and PTAs in the United States. And the other requirement was that you could not be a current member of the APTA. And I did this because I had a few people say, well, my license is coming up for renewal, or excuse me, my membership's coming up for renewal. I'm thinking about it. I said, well, I want people who are not members currently. And I put the survey out on my social media at the time. So I had about 7,000 followers on Instagram, and I thank you all so much for helping me grow the page. It's like 18,000 now. Thank you so much for all of y'all's support. I mean, I do this all for y'all. And I did not actually just publish it. I just didn't stick it up there to say, hey, just come and take the survey. No, I asked. I said, who would like to do the survey? Again, I did this to make sure that, again, I got people who were licensed in the United States and were not currently members. And it was much better to make sure that they filled out the whole thing. I didn't want incomplete surveys. Did not collect any personal data. I don't want your name. I didn't want your name. I did not want your contact information. I wanted it completely anonymous so that you could be as completely honest as possible. And I told and I had to send this to 100 people. I found 100 people, and I told every single one of them, be as honest. I'm not going to be offended. Be as honest as you want. And that is truly it. So I asked, again, a total of 10 questions. And the first 7 were a multiple choice. So the first one, are you a PT or PTA? Then what is your age range? How long you've been practicing? What state do you primarily practice in? What setting do you primarily practice in? Were you an APTA member post-graduation? And how long have you not been an APTA member? Now, the last 3 were a combination of multiple choice and free text. And I wanted this. I put on this section, and I'll get to those questions here in a bit. I put ones that I had seen that people had said, and I put a free text box because, again, there could be other points that people come up with that's their reason. And I wanted to have as much of that on there as possible. And those 3 questions are, what led you to not being an APTA member? What stops you from joining the APTA now? And what would get you to join? So I'm just going to go through all of this, and, it's kind of interesting when we get to the end of it. So I'll just go through the first part of it. So 81 PTs and 19 PTAs took it. The age range was between 20 and 54. And the largest percentage of people, 61 people, were between the ages of 25 to 34. And 34 people were between the ages of 35 and 44. I felt this was very, very good because this is the future. To me, this group is the future of the profession. They're the ones that are going to be taking over in a few years. And so I felt it was very, very, very important to talk to this group of people. The length of practice. So this varied all the way up to 21 years. But 47% had been practicing 5 years or less. Overall, 80% have been practicing 10 years or less. So again, I felt like this was a spot-on population. Now, this also does line up with the percentage of people who utilize social media as well, because it's more people that are, when I looked this up, who were like mid-30s and younger are more likely on social media. But again, like I said, I felt like this was the most important. It was a mixture of many states, so I don't believe like the states were like super important. I said, I collected this just in case there was kind of information that maybe came out of different states, but I think it was good just to get as many states in there. I think a total of, I don't even know, 34 different states. So that was very good. Most common practice setting was outpatient. And that's probably, again, my page is kind of set about outpatient orthopedics. That's where all my information and, my entertainment comes from, but it's for all therapists. So outpatient was the highest percentage of 65 people. So 60% of people, or 60 people, were members postgraduate, 40% not. And the length of time that they had not been a member. So it was very, very heavily like under 15 years on it. So 20 people, less than a year, 25 people, 1 to 3 years. So most of the people didn't renew past the 15-year mark is really what I'm getting at. So that's where we get into. Now, like I said, I want to get into these other 3 questions, and those were the biggest ones. So the first 2, I put a list of several things on there. And so I put on there first, membership's too costly. My employer stopped paying for membership. I don't have time to utilize the benefits. I find better information elsewhere. The APTA is not addressing concerns about the profession that affect my ability to practice. The APTA is too slow in addressing the profession's concerns. The APTA is not staying up to date with current treatment evidence. The APTA is not staying up to date with current societal concerns. The APTA is not staying up to date with professional concerns. I disagree with the issues the APTA is addressing. The continuing education does not appeal to me. My state's association does not communicate with me. The national association does not communicate with me. The geographic location of the district or state meetings is just too difficult. Now, I got that one from an old research article, which was very interesting to see that was something that they looked, because if you live in a very big state, they said with like local meetings, it was kind of hard. But I said, times have changed. We're all digital now. And I do not enjoy... I don't join the profession. And then lastly, the other. So those were the answers that I had put on that could be a choice for that, why you left, and then what stops you from joining. So those were the responses along with the free text. And I will say the number one reason out of, so for the first one of, let me see this, and I'm reading over here, I'm sorry. What led you to not being an APTA member? The number one reason out of 355 responses, because people could pick multiple things. Because again, it may not be one thing. It can be a combination. And that's what I really wanted to look at, to say, is this a combination of factors? Because many things can be multifactorial, as we say. Number one answer, 86 people said this, so it was 24%. The membership was too costly. That was the number one answer that people said is what caused them to stop. I completely understand that. The cost, again, $400 to $500, it's pretty hard to make. Again, a lot of things are more costly now. That's something that's pretty hard to sometimes justify. If you're paying $500 a month and you're just starting out, that's hard to do. The second answer, which was almost half of the first one, was that the APTA is not addressing concerns about the profession that affect my ability to practice. That was only 45 answers of that, so 12%. And the third was the APTA is too slow in addressing the profession's concern. So I would say with this one, those are the things that everyone always says, oh, they're not doing the thing, they're not addressing this and they're not addressing that. Looks like that's not as big of a reason, at least with the people that I surveyed, that was why they left the APTA. Now, the second choice, what stops you from joining it now? And out of this, 318 total responses. Again, there was all those same responses plus the other. The number one answer, membership too costly. 80 answers for this, so 25% of the respondents, that was their number one. And again, less than half was the APTA is not addressing concerns about the profession that affect my ability to practice. Number 3 is APTA too slow in addressing the profession's concerns. So at 12.26, and then at almost 12%, 11.95. So again, it was cost. The cost was showing that this is what kept people from joining. Now the last one, getting into the last one, what would bring you back? What would bring you back to joining the APTA? There was a total of, the answers that, again, I had put on there: lower membership cost, ability to join either at the state or national level, free membership to one section with joining, improved continuing education / certificates, better social media presence, open interactions between leadership and members, live in-person course options, continuing education mobile app, podcast on current APTA events / issues. I don't join professional organizations. And of course, the last one was other, just free text, whatever that you want. Number one would bring people back with 78 answers, which was 24%, a lower membership cost. Again, so if the membership cost was lower, many of these people said they would come back. The second one was a free membership to one section with joining. So if you join, like I'm part of the orthopedic. So if that, that throws up, I see that it knocks up the cost, especially like the private practice one. Good gracious, that one's expensive. But people said, like, hey, if you throw in an additional one, maybe I would come back. Okay. And then improve continuing education / certifications. That was the number 3 one. That was kind of surprising. So it shows overall money was the issue. Now you're probably saying, Matt, what about that free tech stuff? What were people saying? So yeah, I want to share that. So the first one, out of the 355, 20 respondents, 20 people had put comments in there, so that was only 5.63%. But I will say this, when looking at those things, and I'm trying to pull up some of my information that I have all down, very often people reported the same thing that was an option. So very many of them said the same thing, like I get continuing education stuff elsewhere. They had already said that. They said my employer quit. My employer doesn't pay it, which was actually an option because it says my employer stopped paying for my membership, and like one person says, my company pays for membership elsewhere, or with their continuing elsewhere. Well, they said, oh, my employer quit paying for it. Well, that was already an option. So it's like, okay, so you just reported the same thing. Now, there were a few things that people were very upset. Like somebody says, I refuse to support the APTA after they did the profession. They didn't expand on that. A lot of people were very upset about them supporting PT Mills, that they said, and I probably should talk about that as well. So they were very upset about that. And now, for the second one, what stops you from joining now? There were 6 respondents for that. So only 1.8% of the people said that. And what were some of the stuff that they had said? They said, let's see. They were saying like, yeah, it was the same thing. Again, employer doesn't pay. So it was kind of the same. They repeated the same things. Now the last one, what would get you to rejoin? What would get you to come back? 21 answers. So 21 people gave a response to that. And I will tell you, out of the 100 people, only 3 said they would not rejoin. So people, 3 people said, nope, I'm not doing it whatsoever. They're saying, nope, I wouldn't join no matter what. So I totally get that. I mean, and I really see that with as well. Yeah. Sometimes you get upset with something. You get bad. You get mad. You get burned. I'm just not going to do that. You get mad. We get mad at department stores and restaurants and stuff. We're not going to come back. But I will say, now there is something I do want to bring out that was brought up. There was 3 things that were brought up very, very often, and I did talk about it when I kind of broke this down. There were 3 areas that people, when they free text, said the same things. They said the cost of school going up. They were not happy about that. They said the lowering reimbursement rates and pay. That was the 3 things that people, if they wrote something, that they were upset about why they either left or why they won't come back. Now, I will say, I've talked about this before. The APTA is not directly tied to what people are paid. You know, I've run clinics. If you run a clinic, you'll understand APTA has never come to one of my clinics, or have I known to say, you got to pay this. And that's been a point to say, you have to pay your people this. And I've brought it before. I would not want that. I would not want an outside organization coming in to my clinic, and I would say your clinic, and say, you have to pay your employees this amount. So it's kind of outside of it, but it ties over to reimbursement. That is something that the APTA, they are fighting that. They are working. There's a lot of effort to be done with all of that. And I've talked about, again, there's different stuff out there. Now I can see, again, you can't pay it. You know, that's the thing that employers will say, we can't pay as much because they're cutting the reimbursement rates. But I will say I've gotten into a couple arguments here lately with some managers, some management people on social media when they start talking about pay. And I ask, like, well, how much do you pay your employees? They don't want to say anything about it. And I think that's kind of interesting. A few of them try to call out like some stuff with pay. And then if you point it back and then, well, how much are you paying your employees? They're like, oh, no, this isn't about me. Like, why did you bring it up? If, you know, and granted, I mean, maybe even if you were saying, if you're a manager and just saying like, yeah, we have to pay this because we're trying to get better rates and that's all we can afford. But they just block the whole thing. That I think is interesting. And then the cost of school. I totally get that. The cost of school going up, this was a big thing. And I will say, and I probably should do a deep dive into this, but yes, I totally get that the cost of school is going up. And I will say this, the APTA doesn't set what the school tuition is. Like that's something I've seen people, they complain about, they bring up and point out and they complain about the cost of school. APTA doesn't go to, you know, like Montana here and say, this is what you should charge for PT school. It's the schools that are doing it, and they're overall increasing the overall cost of school. I mean, many people's degrees and stuff, even stuff that's not related to PT, just, you know, basic degrees, they're costing more. A lot of people are saying that. They're saying, hey, they're coming out of school with a lot of debt. The schools are increasing the cost of school. And I will say, I've talked to educators and they said, yeah, we recognize that. We recognize that we are not getting as many people applying to our programs because the cost of school is so much. And people that are in the public schools, they're like, we are trying to find ways to decrease the cost. So they're doing more like online stuff. They are aware of it. And I've heard some people, some educators say, you know, like the private schools, they don't care. They're going to charge whatever they want to charge because they know a certain, you know, type of people are going to come to their programs or whatnot. But the public schools, they said, yeah, we're trying to actively lower that cost of school because we see that is a problem getting out. More people are talking about it. So that is something. And I will say, talking at the House of Delegates, that has been something that's been brought up. All of these things have been brought up. They're very aware of it. Everyone there is very aware. People are bringing up to say in front of God and everybody is saying, in front of all the APTA people, saying, cost of school is too much. We got to see about lowering that. The reimbursement rates are going up. We have to fight that. We need to do, whatever, get whatever. And that the pay is not going up. They recognize it. They do understand that. So I thought I would share this with you all. Let me know what you think about it. And so, and like I said, I presented this and I found it was very interesting that, again, money was the biggest thing, was the biggest reason why people don't join. And that's what the biggest reason that would bring them back on it. And I thought that was interesting. And I mean, heck, maybe in the future to do a bigger one and really, really publish that out. I never got into like what's the dollar point people would join versus that they wouldn't. But I have seen that if you do put that out there, it can be all over the place. Somebody might say, "Oh, I'll join if it was $300," and then you lower it to $300 and nobody joins. So again, I understand sometimes people talk and they'll say they'll do something, but then they don't end up doing it. So I get it. And I would thank I thank everyone. If you were a part of this survey, thank you so much for doing it. Like I said, it was 2 years ago. Thank you all so much for doing it. And maybe if I get a good response, I would do this again and write it up. And maybe I could get more people, 300-400 people doing this. It was a lot of information to go through with one. But it would be, even like I said, better information if we get a huge number and really, really present it. And I felt like as well, this group of people were very, very important to talk to. Those 25 to 34, so that mid-20s to mid-30s are very important because that is the future of the professions. Those are the ones who are going to be running clinics, the ones who are taking the leadership roles in the profession to doing the. That is the group. They're the ones who are that future that we have to pass off that next one. I'm kind of on the other end of it. I'm in my 40s. I'm on the opposite end. I want to bring that profession up. I want to bring the profession up and, and set them up so that it's like, hey, I took it so far. You have to take it, the next step. I did what I could. But I'm also interested to hear what your reasons are if you're a member or not a member, of saying like, hey, this is a reason why, this is what would bring me back. Of course, it can be that you say like everything sucks and everybody sucks and it's all stupid. That's fine. That's your opinion. That is your opinion. You are free to have that opinion, that belief, all of that. That's the great thing about it. And so, like I said, I always do want people to join up, help out the profession in some way. You don't have to be a member. There's a video on that. You don't have to be a member to help out the profession, but you can find out there are ways to do it. So there you go, everyone. That's some reason for my own little research that I did about why people are not members, why they left, and what would bring them back. If you enjoyed this video, I would please be so pleased to, if you hit that thumbs up button down below, it just shows that you love the video. Consider subscribing to the channel. It doesn't cost you a copay or anything like that. And of course, as always, share your comments, your beliefs, your opinions down below there. So, like always, take care of yourself, take care of your patients. I'll see you next time.